You want to offer a place where you can take a custom model, an open source model, and build it affordably. I think bedrock, AWS, because of this week and what's been in the news flow. What are you trying to build?
First, thank you so much for having us here. At Together, we believe open source is a big part of AI's future. So what we've built is a very optimized cloud platform for building generative AI applications on open and custom models. We provide APIs where we have hundreds of models prepackaged that users can use, and we provide sort of best-in-class tools to allow companies to build their models from scratch or take an open model and adapt them with fine-tuning for their purposes.
Bucky, it's a big check, a few checks for a Series A. You know this space better than many. You're taking on the hyperscalers, and you're trying to offer something at a better price than they are. But you're confident that the Together AI can do that.
So you've been covering this space for a reason. This is a fundamentally new form of computing that is going to be as disruptive as internet and mobile. And with respect to Together...
Like an OS, basically.
Absolutely. And with respect to Together, what we're seeing is enterprises are now leaning in on wanting to build on these open source and custom models. And to do that, they're going to need a platform upon which these models can run. And we think Together's that platform.
I'm interested, Vipul, from your perspective, what we like to categorize perhaps in the media is this tension between open source and closed models. And I mean, the open source movement is as old as software itself, Vipul, but I'm interested in the perhaps car crash of a story that we had a couple of weeks ago around OpenAI. Suddenly corporates are thinking about business continuity, about ensuring that perhaps they're not dependent on one particular LLM provider. Has that changed any of the conversations you're having with corporates?
I would say it certainly illustrates the need for a choice. Companies that are building their strategies around generative AI want control of their models. They want to own the output of their efforts, and open source is, it's a great way of doing that.
Bucky, from your perspective, it can be more resource intensive, though, to sort of manage your open source code in some way. And I'm interested in how companies are really going to end up aligning when it comes to their own proprietary data and building on these open source models.
So first of all, open source AI is really history repeating itself. Businesses have been leveraging open source in the form of databases and other core underpinnings of how they develop their software for decades. So again, this is history repeating itself. And in that sense, yes, there is some operational burden that a company has to take on to leverage open source relative to a managed service. But this is precisely where Together's technology comes in. They want to make that piece easy and take it off the hands of enterprises so they can realize all those benefits without the operational burden.
Vipul, you got Nvidia as an investor, fantastic. But have you got them as a technology partner? Do you have a big old bag of H100s that you can sling over the shoulder and call it a day?
Everyone wants that.
Right.
They are a technology partner. Nvidia is really a leading company in the space. I would say they are the platform today for AI everywhere.
Well, were there other options to you? I mean, I guess considering what you're trying to build, right, the whole business offering from you, were there any alternatives other than Nvidia to get the compute needed to build a platform like that?
There aren't today. We care a lot about price performance. So the services we provide for our inference service is 6 times cheaper than OpenAI's. Our training services are 4 times cheaper than AWS. And we're able to do this.
4 times cheaper than AWS. Can you absolutely guarantee that?
Absolutely guarantee that, yes. And this is both a combination of our hardware stack as well as the software that we have built on it to make training and inference more efficient.
Bucky, there has been much said about the hype, dare we call it, around artificial intelligence. What draws you to a team like Vipul's? Is it talent? Is it what they've already been putting out there in terms of innovation? Is it how they look to be using a very large check that you've all managed to put together?
So Caroline, when we've thought through what it takes to emerge as the leading provider of platform infrastructure for all of these businesses who we believe will be leaning in on open source and custom models, we really think it requires this unique combination of systems engineering and research talent. And both of those have to come together in a world-class way to really build that market-leading product. And Together is the first company we've seen that really brings that to the marketplace in that manner. And that's why we're so proud to be their partner.
Vipul, the money. what will be allocated towards talent? How expensive is talent at the moment? And is it all being brought together to bear where you sit now over on the West Coast, or are you looking more geographically?
The capital one, we are going to do deep investments in product. As Bucky was saying, we have a very deep research effort. We are a research-driven company. We invest a lot in core AI research to build better models, build better model architectures, build better data sets, and build a better platform. So that will be a continued investment. And yes, I think the talent market is very tight today. But we have some of the sort of leading researchers in the space are our co-founders and part of the company. And that really helps bring together the research community and have them attached to the company.
Bucky, what I always find interesting is the rationale of making investment based on what's put in front of you, right? With the greatest respect, Together AI is not a massive company. How much weight do you put on the individuals they have from a talent perspective? Everyone's got GPUs. There are very few data scientists or engineers that can actually make them work, from what I understand.
So look, at this stage, startups are all about the people behind them. And this is a world-class team, as I said, that brings together this unique combination of systems engineering and research talent that we think is the most potent combination to go and build a market-leading company in this space, and that's what we're excited about here.
I'll just ask you both very quickly, it is 1 year to the day since ChatGPT was released. Vipul, how has the last 12 months changed or accelerated what you've tried to do in AI?
I think it has, ChatGPT was a moment that made it very clear the power of foundation models and their applicability. And that's really sort of, created a huge market around and interest in large generative models.